Forget everything you think you know about candlelit parlor rooms and polite society. Seriously, throw it out. We are stepping into a cutthroat world where a single misstep can lead to absolute ruin. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're reframing Jane Austen's masterpiece not as some gentle romance, but as a high-stakes historical thriller. This is a story of psychological warfare, reputation, class, and a literally desperate battle for survival in 19th century England. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. You know the words. They set the stage, lingering over the story like a shadow. But in this world, those words aren't a romance, they're a mandate. Marriage here isn't just about love. Actually, scratch that, it's barely about love at all initially. It's an absolute obsession driven by money, security, and unyielding social status. But what happens when that truth is completely obscured by pride, and when a family's very survival depends on a single, highly prejudiced impression? Well, that is the intense psychological battle at the heart of our explainer today. We're about to witness just how quickly judgments are formed and how devastatingly, dangerously wrong they can be. Okay, let's dive right into this. We have this massive ticking clock hanging over the Bennet family, the entailment. This legal restriction basically means that upon Mr. Bennet's death, the estate completely bypasses his 5 daughters, going straight to a distant male relative. So finding a wealthy husband? It's not a luxury. It is a literal matter of survival to keep them from becoming utterly destitute. The stakes are sky high. And then, enter Fitzwilliam Darcy. The countryside rumor mill instantly ignites with a staggering number, an annual fortune of £10,000. To put that into perspective, in the society of the time, this is an astronomical amount of wealth. It instantly makes Darcy the most powerful, scrutinized, and influential figure in the entire neighborhood. Every single eye is on him. So, we hit the Meryton Assembly, and we get this stark dichotomy right out of the gate. On one side, you've got Charles Bingley. He's warm, approachable, dancing all night, and universally admired, especially by the gentle eldest Bennet sister, Jane. And then, you have Fitzwilliam Darcy. He's reserved, distant, totally refusing to dance with anyone outside his inner circle. In just one evening, he is branded by the entire town as arrogant and unapproachably proud. Then comes the inciting incident of our psychological thriller. Darcy, totally unaware he's being overheard, looks at the witty, fiercely independent Elizabeth Bennet and dismisses her with these exact words. "Tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me." Ouch, right? That stinging insult is the spark. From Elizabeth's point of view, the hero-villain dynamic is locked in instantly. Darcy is the enemy. The mystery really deepens with the arrival of the militia, and specifically one George Wickham. Look at the contrast here. On one side, Darcy, immense wealth, aloof, rumored to be cruel. On the other, Wickham, charming, handsome, and claiming to be a destitute victim of Darcy's jealousy. Wickham's tragic tale of being cheated out of his inheritance perfectly feeds Elizabeth's growing prejudice. I mean, she trusts Wickham completely, and her hatred for Darcy just turns to stone. Watch how rapidly these tensions escalate. Weeks pass, and Jane and Bingley fall deeply in love. But suddenly, out of nowhere, Bingley completely abandons Netherfield for London, leaving Jane totally heartbroken. As winter sets in, Elizabeth discovers the devastating truth. Darcy deliberately separated them. By spring, Elizabeth's hatred for Darcy hits an absolute boiling point. She views him as the sole architect of her sister's misery. Part 1, the shocking rejection. We're at Hunsford, where Darcy expects a grateful yes, but walks straight into a minefield. Elizabeth furiously rejects him, launching these accusations like daggers. "You have ruined the happiness of a most beloved sister and reduced a worthy man to poverty." She directly accuses him of maliciously destroying Jane's romance and ruining Wickham's life. It is a stunning, dramatic rejection that completely shatters Darcy's pride. The very next morning, Darcy stops her on a walk. He doesn't argue, he doesn't yell, he simply hands her a letter and walks away. And as Elizabeth reads it, the fundamental narrative of her reality begins to collapse. Was everything she believed a lie? Now, what's really interesting here is the devastating documentary evidence Darcy provides in this letter. He admits to separating Bingley and Jane, but only because Jane's reserved nature made him genuinely believe she didn't love Bingley, which was compounded by the Bennet family's embarrassing lack of social restraint. But the real shock? Wickham. Darcy exposes Wickham as a reckless, manipulative predator who actually tried to elope with Darcy's 15-year-old sister, Georgiana, solely to steal her fortune. Just like that, Elizabeth's prejudiced worldview is completely shattered. Part 2. Scandal strikes the family. Just as Elizabeth begins to see a softer, much nobler side of Darcy at his beautiful Pemberley estate, a catastrophic letter arrives from Longbourn. This triggers a devastating domino effect. First, the youngest Bennet sister, Lydia, impulsively elopes with Wickham. Then, they discover Wickham has massive debts and no actual intention of marrying her. In 19th century society, this means the Bennet family's reputation is permanently, irreversibly shattered. None of the sisters will ever be able to marry respectably now. And ultimately, Elizabeth realizes that Darcy's love for her is irrevocably lost to this disgraceful scandal. They are a family on the absolute brink of total social and financial annihilation. The emotional depth here is crushing. Mr. Bennet is forced to face his failure as a father, and Elizabeth, she's left with the agonizing realization that she finally understands she loves Darcy at the exact moment she has lost him forever. As the family prepares for total ruin, just waiting for the devastating fallout, a sudden, mysterious financial arrangement is made in London. Someone pays off Wickham's staggering debts and forces him to marry Lydia. But who steps into the shadows to save them when all hope is lost? So, the crucial point is this massive twist. A careless remark by Lydia accidentally exposes the hidden reality behind the cover-up. The Bennets firmly believe their uncle, Mr. Gardiner, paid off Wickham. The actual truth? Darcy tracked them down in the dark underbelly of London. Darcy paid Wickham's massive debts out of his own pocket. Darcy forced the marriage. The man Elizabeth thought completely despised her family secretly orchestrated a heroic intervention to save them, and he asked for absolutely zero credit in return. Wow. Part 3. Transformation and Redemption. The truth is finally out in the open. Bingley returns to Longbourn to propose to Jane. But there's one last boss battle. The terrifying aristocrat Lady Catherine de Bourgh arrives in the middle of the night to fiercely demand Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy. Elizabeth's defiant refusal to back down to Lady Catherine proves her ultimate independence. And it's the perfect mirror to Darcy's own journey. She evolved from absolute prejudice and blind assumptions, while he evolved from arrogant pride and rigid class expectations. When Darcy actually hears of Elizabeth's defiance against his terrifying aunt, it gives him the exact hope he needs to return. And so, we get a second proposal, but this one, it's entirely different. They walk together, conversing with total, unfiltered honesty. All those past misunderstandings are just swept away. This proposal is born not of pride, but of profound understanding and mutual respect. Darcy makes this beautifully vulnerable concluding plea. My affections and wishes are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me on this subject forever. It's the ultimate proof of the transformative power of their shared journey. He places the power entirely, 100%, in her hands. The final triumphs are incredibly satisfying to see unfold. Jane and Bingley find pure, uncomplicated happiness. Elizabeth becomes the mistress of the magnificent Pemberley estate, and she and Darcy forge a marriage built on absolute equality and truth. They survive the ticking clock of societal ruin not by conforming, but by conquering their own internal flaws. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. In a world where survival often demands conformity, and where we constantly judge others in the blink of an eye, are you bold enough to admit when your first impressions are entirely wrong? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep questioning the narrative.